Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 12th audio file in the audiocast series known as the Q News Patriot. I am the Q News Patriot. My name is SGAnon. Very excited to be coming to you again today. This week has certainly been eventful and fun so far, and as Q tells us to track events 21 through 25 of September, those are the days, the 21st through the 25th. I can assure you that things are heating up. They are at a rolling boil right now. Spillover is very soon. And with that being said, I've got a lot to cover with you right now. A little bit of information that I received from the person who I take a lot of my, we'll just say, direction and opinion forming ideas from. I'm going to pass that along to you. And then we're going to do a breakdown of comms, what's going on right now with President 45, President Putin. We're going to talk just a little bit about Ukraine. I'm going to remind everyone what I told them recently with regards to Russia and a fire and fury operation. And that would have been in the last file, audio file, I believe 11. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the coming age. We're going to talk about an operator that many of you are familiar with, and some of the reasons that that individual, for lack of a better term, is simply unable to communicate with you right now. There are forces at play that are bigger than many of us can imagine, myself included. I have been fortunate enough along this journey to really immerse myself into the movement, especially when it was first really becoming a thing. And there's just some amazing things that are coming. And so without further ado, I don't want to get too far off topic. Let's go ahead and get started here. So we're going to open up with the juicy bit for everyone. The juicy bit for everyone is essentially this. And again, I'm just relaying the information given to me. You are very soon to see a pattern emerge, and it will be in the public sector, connecting nefarious forces in Iran and North Korea to President 44 and his administration. And that is going to begin a cascading chain of political events, which will lead to extremely tense, breathtaking moments. We'll put it that way. And so very interestingly, today, as I was watching TruthSocial, that information was corroborated to me. That information was given to me about 36 hours ago. And that information today was corroborated in the comms from 45. We're going to break those down real fast for everyone. Then we're going to transition over to Russia, Ukraine, and Central Europe. We're going to talk a little bit about the Middle East. The Middle East will be last in this great operation. That's because the entrenchments the origin point of the nefariousness that we are dismantling and extracting from the world and all of the various segments of society lies in the Middle East. And so they will be last. We've heard from Q that Israel is last. So we'll talk just a very little bit about that. And then we're going to talk a little bit about Nasera Jacera. So comms from 45 today. Watching TruthSocial, as many of you watch TruthSocial. I know that everyone works and everyone has jobs, pursuits, responsibilities, children, things that they have to worry about and devote time and attention to. And so I entirely understand that many of you are not necessarily able to hawk things like TruthSocial, Twitter with Dan Scavino, Ezra Cohen Watnick, Cash Patel on Truth, et cetera, et cetera. These are sources within our movement that give us updates, typically coded updates through timestamps that reference either timestamps in Q drops that are relevant or the drops themselves. You'll see things from 45 like double posting and then one of them gets taken away. You'll see things from Dan Scavino videos that they often carry musical encoded messages in them. This is a multi-dimensional operation. And so linear forms of communication, as we've discussed a bit before, are simply inadequate. They are not safe. They're not reliable. Currently, the communication pathways, save for a very select few, from, say the military and the lawful government to the peoples, both of the United States and of the world, are controlled by a lot of the enemies that we are working to eliminate. And the reason we can't take those down and just do away with them and establish our own channels and override them is the threat of war breaking out, both civil war within the United States, but also internal conflicts around the globe, and even cross-border conflicts that were not accounted for, is extremely real. And so we have to play this chess game very what I call an offensive defensive posture. And so that would be an offensive hyphen defensive posture, meaning that you're running in a defensive mode, but you are capturing offensive plays periodically, often enough to keep the enemy kind of on their toes. And we're running them out of moves. We're draining, quite literally, we're draining every bit of the swamp, both here and around the world. And so we have to keep in mind that the information being passed to us it has to come in ways that we can interpret it, but the enemy cannot, at least until we've had a chance to break it down. And by that time, where the Anons and all of you digital soldiers out there have broken communications down, typically what those things have referred to, they've already occurred and happened. So that being said, today 45 posted a video of Miss James. He routinely references her as a racist attorney general in the Southern District of New York. We've seen today that fraud charges were filed basically against Trump and his entire family and organization. Excuse me. And the video shows Miss James giving speech. It's more of a message, really. And it's very purplish, which we know from our familiarity with the Q drops around here that purple and orange are often colors signifying death or imminent death. What's very interesting about this particular video is 45 posted it twice, 4 minutes apart. 45's first post came at 14:50 Eastern Date Time. And then the second post came at 14:54 Eastern Date Time. The second post was deleted about 6 minutes after it was posted. So I went, like many of you would, plugged in 14:54 into the Q drops and found something unbelievably fascinating. Drop 14:54 dropped by Q on June 11th, 2018 at 12:56 and 26 seconds p.m. Eastern Date Time states, EU sanctions Iran. Leaders of EU only care about protecting flow of money, capitalized, not capitalized, the safety and security of their people and the world. Iran, capitalized, deal orchestrated for the sole purpose of lifting sanctions blockade to allow access of foreign businesses for individual and co-wide enrichment. Company-wide enrichment, referring to the Kabbalist corporate power structure. Scam, 4 exclamation points, and capitalized. Nothing to do with nukes, and cites nukes as a cover for the real story. Hussein pallets of cash, which were later used to secure the 2020 general election with the shadow government. Hussein's secret authority to convert USD came from my apologies, we ran into some technical difficulties. I lost audio there. Secret authority to convert US dollar given at these meetings. More coming. No mainstream media coverage. Got popcorn with a question mark. Drop 1454 directly references both the Iran nuclear deal and the different things that were done in the lead up to the Iran nuclear deal to secure both the transition of money, power, and also to set us up for a nuclear war. Remember, Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton's part in the 16-year plan to destroy America. Their parts, Barack was to ready us to go into the Great Reset, and Hillary was going to actually kick us off into the Great Reset. We were going to have a nuclear war under Hillary Clinton. We were going to experience total martial law in the United States of America, the complete cessation of freedoms, and the suspension of the Constitution. And they were going to take us into a full-scale, total control dictatorship while killing most of the world. And so it's very interesting that 45 brings this up, because this particular post directly references Barack Obama's Uranium One treason and how he and others set that up and made and put that into motion. So naturally, it's a good thing to examine all the timestamps when we're doing this sort of research. So 1450 was the timestamp that 45 left up, even up to this moment right now. I just refreshed the page. Drop 1450, which is 4 drops prior to the one we just discussed, is all about Kim Jong-un's visit to Singapore, where he met the president of the United States, Mr. Trump. Q says in this post, Gardens by the Bay, see previous picture, timestamp, coincidence, question mark. Everything shown has meaning, and you are watching a scripted movie. I believe they're setting us up for a nuclear standoff event, and I believe 45 is telling us that. I also believe that that particular event is going to be traced back directly to 44. And in so tracing that back directly to 44, we are going to discover 44's involvement in the 2020 election fraud and the operation of, and then sustainment and continuation of, a shadow government through his actions, especially in his last 2 to 3 years as president of the United States. So what's extremely interesting also about this, if we get right down to it, lost my place there. Pardon me. If we have a look at the timestamp on 45's, where's it at? We go to Donald Trump's page here, and we go a couple of posts prior to the Letitia James video that we were just referencing. We see a post that reads, President Putin is now threatening the use of nuclear weapons, saying it is not a bluff. This is on TruthSocial with 45 just today. The Ukrainian conflict should never have happened and would not have happened if I were president, but as I have made very clear for quite some time, this could now end up being World War III. That is a massive statement from a gentleman that many believe is the rightful and current commander-in-chief of the United States of America. That post was put up at 10:04 Central Date time. 11:04 timestamp yields some very interesting results, but sometimes I mix up the timestamps just to see what I find. 10:04, if I type in the timestamp 10:04 into the Q app search, drop 548 comes up, and it's nothing. It is no less than President Barack Obama, soon to be President Barack Obama, in 2007 at a fundraiser at Stephen and Judy Gluckstern's home, April 9th of 2007, and George Soros is in the picture seated to the right of the stairs. This particular meeting was where Barack Obama courted investment banker Robert Wolf, and how Wolf is tied back to the Clintons, and that's just too deep to go into for right now. We would spend the entire audio file talking about just that. But essentially what Q is telling us here is they were going to set us up for treason, nuclear fallout, and the consolidation of a one world financial system that was in their total control. This was by design all the way back when Barack was fundraising for his campaigns. And so 45 showing us today, pointing at Hussein's treason, the nuclear aspect of that, bringing Kim into the mix, and kind of reminding us that he and Kim worked out an agreement, and Kim has a role to play, and it's coming. His role's not played out yet. It's coming. Um, I believe that this is a very real communication from the commander in chief that we are going to see, as my source, for lack of a better term, um, told me, we are going to see things become front and center as tension ratchets up, and blame is going to be directed. There's going to be a need to blame people. And so extrapolate from that things are going to be pinched, as we've talked several times, for a little while, and that pinch is going to be sore and it's going to hurt. But when we end, excuse me, when we end through that process, we're going to have extremely clear understandings of who did what, where they did it, and why they did it. And we will move into our new way of life slowly but surely over the next 12 months. And so take heart, knowing that your commander in chief is talking to you. He is telling us that Hussein is going to be in the public eye, not going to be very flattering for him. And there is justice coming both for the peoples of America and the world, but in particular, individuals that were affected by the war crime known as Benghazi and other galactic level betrayals. And I use galactic tongue in cheek, but those that sort of the level of treason these people committed is almost inquantifiable. Q at one point tells us that they will need to invent a new word for treason. I take everything that Q said or posted at every value and every angle that I possibly can, and I give it the utmost credence. And so understanding that Q is not likely to sensationalize anything for us, understand that when Q says they're going to have a new word for treason, it's going to be so incredibly eye-opening. Your sleepers are just they're just going to be beside themselves, and they're really going to need you. And so, speaking of the sleepers, one of the things that is waking the sleepers up right now and is kind of propelling us into this event in the European theater is the Russian president and alliance command, I would say command general, but command advisor, essentially, President Vladimir Putin of Russia. President Putin has mobilized military men of fighting age up to a minimum conscript of 300,000 soldiers. Expect more. I think we should expect more of that as we come into these next 3 to 4 weeks. Ukraine will not exist in the state that it has existed in for these last 25, 30 years. When all of this is over, there will be redrawings of the map. We have sections of the country already in the eastern region that are holding referendums on merging with Russia. Putin has made clear that, well, let me rephrase. Putin has hinted very strongly that an annexation of additional territory is inevitable. And essentially, we have to understand that the Khazarian kingdoms, as we go back through history, they've always been in that kind of Eastern, Southeastern European areas. They were translated there many centuries ago, just over 1,000 years ago. And they are extremely infiltrated. They've had 1,000 years to fortify these, the landscape, and to build their devices of death, terror, and torture. They've had 1,000 years there, essentially, to carry out the nefarious activities that they've always carried out. They have certainly had at least 30 years in the recent lens, basically to do whatever they want. Many of the world biopharmaceutical companies are located in Kiev and headquartered out of Kiev. Many of the world medical research companies are headquartered out of Kiev and other cities, big metropolitan cities like Kharkov in Ukraine. All of this is going to tie together. We have election fraud and treason. We have nuclear treason. We have the funding and establishment of terror cells all over the entire world through a former United States president. We have a financial structure that takes us all the way to the top and actually supersedes governmental boundaries and territorial powers. We have the COVID crime architected by those at the very top to essentially be carried out as a religious war against the people of the world and to murder 90 to 95% of us. All of this is colliding now, and we're going to see clarity and disclosure, the likes of which we just really, I'm not sure if many of the truthers, myself included, are truly ready for the gravity of. And I've been to some pretty deep places. They had developments in southern and south eastern Ukraine that were funded by the Mossad, and they were researching a way to aerosolize the virus rabies, which has a 98% fatality rate in humans. It's also called hydrocephalus. They were going to shoot it into the air and murder us. It's the level of evil is eye-opening in many respects. And so what we're getting right now between 45's comms and his recent rally, we discussed that in the last file, and now we have Putin essentially saying that we are going to cleanse Ukraine of its current makeup. These are massive events. The world needs to see what happens when we allow these people to have control, and I use that in air quotes. And then what we're going to do is we're actually using this entire optical period where we're blaming it on them, but we are undoing the things that they have done to this world. Yes, there are casualties along the way. All of you out there have lost someone or someones in this process. Myself, I'm no exception to that rule. I've lost 3 people. This is a difficult but necessary time, and we have to go through this to protect the future optics and to prevent the world from falling into conflict instead of peace. And so with that being said, we're going to see more of Iran and Hussein. We're going to see more of Iran and Russia. And we're going to see North Korea come into the scene on the world view, in the world stage, very soon. So that leads me to kind of the last portion of all this, the point that I want to kind of make with you all, and really think about this. Where does power come from? We're going to ask it again. Where does power, the ability to control and influence, come from? And we can take that question on many levels. We can say that it's metaphysical. We can say that you are your own power. We can say that you're endowed with the power of the living God. We can say that you are endowed as an energetic being. We can say that if you are born into a position of authority, you have power. We really have to define what power is for that question. For the purpose of the question, we're defining power as the ability to influence. And I would submit to each of you that the power, if we want to take down a power structure, we have to take down the cornerstone, right? The cornerstone of power in this world is money. The ability to control through money, the ability to control with money, the ability to control money in the sense of value, purpose, place in society. If you control the means by which all energy in our world is moved and accounted and recounted, shifted and sorted, you control everything. John F. Kennedy knew that. John F. Kennedy knew that the only way we would ever get free would be to take the money back. John F. Kennedy proceeded forward with Executive Order 11-11-0, and shortly thereafter was killed. John F. Kennedy's death was the first warning from the cabal to the people of the world and the patriots and governments, both in the United States and around the world, that there would be no tolerance for something of that nature, because it was their source of control. Fast forward, we had NESARA. NESARA was signed into law in 2000. We're going to talk a little bit about NESARA in just a minute. And in 2001, we know what happened. The morning of September 11th, 2001, Alan Greenspan was scheduled to go live with the announcement of the new financial system, the new financial law that governed the new financial system. And we are aware, obviously, of what happened that day. So when Q says playbook known, when Q says these people are stupid, when Q says false flag warnings and tells us the different drops along the way to stay away from major US cities and sporting events, when Q says they're trapped, when Q says the plan to save the world, when Q says the greatest story ever told, at some point in time, all of this has to come true, right? The only way that the ball really gets propelled forward in the public sense and what all of you are looking for, besides an overt military takeover, which would cause more problems than it would fix, at least at this stage, even at this stage. But what can be done is a changing, a reset of the financial system of the world. The last time that was attempted, we know what happened, and so do the Patriots at the top. And they are ready for it. We are going to experience, as I've said before, a major false flag event. I currently believe that it's going to be blamed on or tied to climate change, and that some sort of emergency lockdown is going to be declared and martial law is going to be declared by the Biden government. That's just my personal understanding of things. I do not have confirmation that it will be declared by the Biden government. I only have confirmation that we are going to experience a false flag and it's going to be related to climate change. But I am extrapolating from that knowledge that it would almost have to be a lockdown of some sort, would have to come from the black hats, who we are optically painting as the black hats. If that is so, would it not stand to reason that such a false flag would correspond to another attempted reset of the financial system? Now, let me clarify. The quantum financial system and the new way of financial life is already active. There is no more old system except within the local banks and community banks that each of you do business with and many of you work at. But the old system is being kept on life support and has been tied and run along with the new system long enough so that the new system has a chance to trickle down into every facet and corner of our current society, our financial society, if we can. So when I say that it would have to be done by the black hats to cover up an attempted reset, the reset has already occurred. But we know that the last rogue elements, the ones that are still pulling the strings and calling the shots in different bastions and rock holes around our world, we know that if we go for the throat to take out the financial system publicly again, they will have no other option but to expose themselves fully and to proceed with the most aggressive and heinous parts of their plan, a false flag being one of them. We are ready for such an event, and that will kick off a very large amount of disclosure. So understanding that, having all of that kind of at a point of consistency and congealing, we need to talk for a minute about what happens when the system resets. We're going to have that period of turbulence. There's going to be some intense confusion. Many of the sleepers are going to wake up as though you had thrown a bucket of ice on them. They're going to be reactive and more than a little bit perplexed and upset. But after that period of time, we are going to come into a period of wonderful and amazing calm. And we need to talk about what happens with metals when that happens. Many of you out there are aware, most of you are aware, that having some sort of precious metals would be a decent idea, if I may speak personally, as I am not a financial advisor, representative, or banker of any kind. But that being said, we know that establishing a value system that ties our currencies together, both in the United States and all other countries around the world, and ties us together at a one-to-one level playing field so that everyone can receive the appropriate value of whatever their economy, commerce, productions are worth. That's how we overtake them fully. And that can only happen if we have a standard measure of value. I personally have been purchasing silver for a little while. I don't really mess a lot with gold because the spot price is simply out of my budget. I believe the last I checked, it was around $2,000 an ounce. But I have been able to acquire a decent amount of silver. Metals on the other side of this reset period that we're going through are going to be, well, they're going to be precious, truly precious. They will be worth more than sitting in your jewelry chest and collecting dust. They will be pieces you will want to display. You'll be proud to own the various jewelry, coinage, memorabilia, etc., that you have right now and that you may seek to acquire in the next short period of time. But they are going to be extremely important when we take the world back into a period of peace. And they're also going to be critical for the establishment of a true worldwide peace, a peace between nations and a peace with, internally inside nations between their citizenries and their governments. We have to have fairness. I have a little one, and fairness is a topic that he struggles with sometimes. But fairness in word and deed is how we take our world forward. The Q Patriots know that, and so does the cabal. We have been unfairly gaslit in an innumerable number of ways for thousands of years. This life has never been fair, but it was made to be fair. And we are returning it to that point right now. I would personally suggest, and this is what I would do, that I would go out if I was contemplating this information, and I would find a way to acquire at least some pure 0.999 pure silver or gold if it's within your budget, or copper, cobalt, platinum, any variation of these. I would do so responsibly and cognizantly, and I would double check with an advisor first. But it is not an exaggeration to say that acquiring some of these commodities in the present time and in this next short period would be a wonderful idea, if nothing else, for the memorable time associated with it. I personally get a great deal of commodities that I believe are pivotal. I have to be careful with my words. I get them from local marts. I have a subscription service to a metals company. I have individuals involved in that company, like many of you do, and many of you are aware of the company, who are a part of my air quotes organization, who I work with to make a difference in their lives. But wherever you get your sourcing from, be sure that you hold it in hand. Be sure that it's pure. and be sure you understand the weight and the delineation, the units of measure that are being used, it would be wise. And again, I'm not a financial advisor, but in my personal opinion, I believe it would be very wise. If you're not sure how to get started into the researching of and slow acquisition of metals such as silver, gold, or copper, things like that, please reach out via email. My email is contained in the description box of all of my audio files. The email is simply theqnewspatriot@protonmail.com. Many of you have sent me beautiful thank you notes and questions and desires to support the show and things like that. And for that, I'm very humbled. I cannot come out and ask in good conscience for your support. I work a day job, same as most of you, and it's one that I enjoy, and I'm not seeking to replace it. But that being said, if you have not heard back from me via email, you will. There are different ways you can support the show if that's what you'd like to do. But these audio files are given from my heart to yours because we are in a turbulent and world-altering time, the likes of which will not be seen again in this world for 10 centuries or more. And so understanding that, if you are needing direction or wanting to be a part of, continuing what we're doing here and or maybe even looking at starting what we're doing here in your own way, feel free to reach out. Be more than happy to give you my advice, and that's all that I can give you. And I can say, one last time for legality reasons that I am not a financial advisor, but I do try and read and I follow experts like I follow some of the Wall Street bankers. I follow Bix Ware. I follow other individuals that are heavily involved in the financial world, and we're seeing some very exciting but intimidating things coming down the pike. We're going to close off tonight with a little bit of an encouragement for many of you out there. I am not an operator in this movement. I'm extremely lucky and grateful to have been connected to someone who believes they have a true connection and who passes information along to me. Now, that being said, there is an operator within the truth community that many of you are familiar with, and that individual is involved heavily in the implementation of the new banking system. And so if you follow a particular person and you are curious where they're at or what they're doing at different points along the way, please understand that I can corroborate simply from what I've been told that there is a role that party plays in all of this, and that role cannot be understated. It's very important. And so be patient with those that you follow and try to be as gracious as you can when things have to change suddenly. This entire military operation is event and awareness driven. I've said that before. When we arrive at certain points, then we're ready to put our nail in the ground or our flag in the ground, so to speak, and move to the next point or marker. I call them rally points. We are moving through the rally points necessary to roll out this blueprint for world peace and prosperity around the world. The rollout is difficult because in order to roll out something new, the old must be done away and removed. And so we are experiencing that right now. So take some heart. The people you follow you follow them for a reason, you follow them for a resonance, and you follow them because you feel called to. And it is worth pointing out that our intuitions and our God-given spiritual guidance is expected of us, and we are expected to use it. And so that being said, I want to leave all of you with the note that great things are happening. There are people that are moving things along in the silence, and there are people that are moving things along in the public space, and those fields are converging at breakneck speed, and I'm very excited for the next part. And with that, I will put different links in the description of the video below. I will have the one contact email that I have in the description below. And I hope that each of you stay safe and well. Keep a very close eye on the 24th through the 28th and 29th of September. They will prove to be momentous. We are taking our world back. We are taking our sovereignty back. We are returning to our rightful place as one mankind under our source creator. And we are righting our ship. And we are writing the history, writing with an RIGHTING, our ship. And we are writing WRITING, our history for our posterity and our future generations. And so with that, be safe, be smart, stay well. I love each of you. I look forward to speaking with you again soon. It is not likely that you will hear from me for at least 4 to 5 more days. I won't have anything new to give in that particular amount of time. But I will strive to answer any overtures that are sent to me, again, through the email. So with that being said, everyone, have a wonderful evening and a safe journey as we transition into this next phase. The fear-mongering and fear porn on the mainstream media will continue for a while as we continue the takedown of mainstream media. Just be there for your sleepers. They're going to need you, and frankly, so are you. And with that, have a great evening. This is SGAnon. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.